Like most of you, I love going to conferences. I really do. I get so much out of it. I love hearing the speakers. I love the idea of taking a perspective on the industry and hearing it across different speakers. Love that idea. Love it. But conferences can also be maybe a little boring. Also, they may not talk about the things that you really want to hear. So I wanted to talk to somebody who actually has their pulse on the conference industry, and that is Jamie Hancock. Okay, if you put aside that he is an Aston Villa fan, that's a Premier League team for most of us who know that. If you put that aside, he's an amazing guy. It's so much insights and perspective, and he will be giving us a reality check on conferences. What should we be looking at? What should we be doing as attendees? All those different things. So get ready for a great show on retail leadership with Steve Worthy.
Welcome to Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, where we go well beyond the corporate playbook to unpack major opportunities, hidden challenges, and critical issues that senior retail leaders face every day. So let's get started right now.
Jamie, it's been interesting. I was telling somebody about you, and we first met at the conference in November, the Endless Aisle conference. And I remember you and I were talking so much. You were so loud. You kept having to shush yourself. No, you were shushing me when the speakers were talking. And then from there, we just hit it off, and we just had such a great conversation. And then we connected again at NRF. I'm interested in what you do, but before we get into that, I want everybody to know a little bit more about you. So please take some time and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Steve. And yeah, we had a really good time in New York. I remember that very clearly. Look, I run a business called Buying Time, which is 22 years old, I think, coming up to 22 years old. It's a demand generation agency that's been working for consultancies, tech platforms, etc., for the whole of its life, trying to create engagement, trying to create new relationships on behalf of those companies. So it's a sales business in disguise, masquerading as a marketing firm. And all we've done over the years is make the levers that we pull different. In the old days, really old days, we used to pick up the phone and book one-to-one meetings for clients. And then we gradually, about 13 years ago, we started running events for them because they were creating new relationships. And all I did was find the money, and then I hired some people who apparently knew how to run events. And then we took it on itself. And now the business it's about 30 people, and we run events all over Europe and the US. We own an events brand called Commerce Futures, where we run events in our own name. And coupled with Commerce Futures, there is a community inside Commerce Futures of brand side customers. So 260, 70 people, all of whom are at brands in digital or technology roles primarily, who we just put in a safe space, and they have a great time talking to each other. And that keeps us relevant because we know what their problems are. We absolutely know what their problems are all the time. So that's our sort of secret sauce. And then in recent years, the events that we run increasingly have become a lot more varied. We'll get involved in running events in our clients' names, such as New Store and a bunch of others. We will also run in 3 weeks' time the Mac Alliance's conference in Chicago. We will run a great big theatre and stand at a trade show called the Retail Technology Show in the UK next week with 25 of the community speaking. So we do anything that's in that sort of live learning space in and around the edge tech, the kind of digital part of tech. It's our world. That's our little universe.
That's awesome. Before we get into some of the questions I have for you, I can't have you on this show and not talk football for a second. Because I think people are going to listen to this. They're going to hear your crazy accent, and everybody's over here in the States. You're an Aston Villa fan, man. The one thing I love when I talk to you, I love hearing when I speak to you, is about you and your son, and you and your son go to those games. I love hearing those type of stories, man.
So I don't know whether we talked about it. I know being a soccer fan in the UK is a truly tribal experience. I think the fact that we have relegation, the fact that you can go down a league and you can get promoted, and you basically spend your whole time as a football supporter in the UK in fear. That's the reality, right? Everybody is scared because you can go down. And if you go down, coming back up Aston Villa were relegated into the league below, and we were there for 4 years, man. It was a nightmare. And you play some really terrible teams, and the refereeing's awful, and there's no VAR, and it's like being sent to, I don't know, somewhere else. Let's not use any political term. It's the Guantanamo Bay. It's the Guantanamo Bay. Anyway, I support Aston Villa. I grew up in Birmingham, and that's the team I support. And I don't live anywhere near there now. I live 2.5 hours drive away. So I've got 3 boys, and they didn't have any choice growing up. They were given Aston Villa kit. Did completely, I brainwashed them from a very early age. And they all 3 would say they support the team, but the eldest really supports the team. So there's a moment, I think, that I realized when he went to university and left home, he took it from me. Like, he's taken the angst and the stress upon himself, and I don't have it anymore. He worries about the team. He rings me on a Saturday. We speak before every game. We talk about the team. The team news will come out, and he'll ring immediately, or I'll ring him. And he is at university up in Wales, and I'm down in the south of the country, and we meet to go to the games we probably see 6 or 7 games a year together. And it's a very, fathers and sons have complicated relationships anyway, right? We're very close, but football brings you closer. The fear of failure. And my football team are in an incredibly interesting position at the moment, right? Because if they Cup this weekend, if it's either us or you, probably. So we've got Preston North End. They're crap. That means hopefully we're in the semi. We're in the last 8 of the Champions League. Who knew we'd ever be in the?
Come on, I know.
Yeah, come on, man. And Liverpool aren't, which is crazy.
Yeah,
And we should get top 5 and do not bad in the Premiership again.
I know.
And we've got Asensio. I mean, have you seen that guy?
I know. I have. But that's football. We're just now, us, when I say us, the United States. Our women's team, of course, has always been amazing. Our men's team, not so much. But even just like the supportership, if you will, of football hasn't been great. I didn't grow up playing it. I grew up playing basketball, baseball, Yankees, and Michael Jordan and all of that stuff. It wasn't until 2005 and 6 that I found the game and fell in love with it. And it has literally changed my life. Every Saturday and Sunday morning, I'm up early anyway, but I'm watching football. I love talking about the strategy of it. I understand the offside rule, right? I can call it when it's all right, all of these things. But then having gentlemen like you and Ian and all of these guys in this little group that we chat about football, I tell you what, it doesn't get any better than that. It doesn't get any better than that. But I love you. Thanks for telling us stories. Here's the thing. About 2 years ago, I had this idea around doing a podcast episode about conferences. And I was at my limit in the context of I was going to these conferences, man, and I just wasn't getting anything out of it. I saw just the surge of sameness from conference to conference. You sit at a very interesting intersect of putting together conferences, but also being the individual that is responsible for what people get out of the conferences. And your business has been around for 22 years. What have you seen from the idea of what a conference was maybe 10, 15 years ago to what it is right now?
Okay, so let me tell you the story of why we started one, because I think probably the intersection that I see, the biggest change I've seen is when we started, I didn't start a conference business or brand for myself. I designed one for a client. But the insight was we were meeting retailers. This is early e-com days, right? We were meeting retailers, going to the e-com conferences, and they were just getting sold to for a day by software vendors. They wouldn't see any value, and they wouldn't go back. And the software vendors would go, why don't you want to talk to me and be my friend? And you've just been trying to sell to me for a day. And I got out of bed and put a suit on in order to come to your conference so that you could sell to me. That's no fun. So that became, and at the time, people in e-commerce in particular, they needed help. there were no rules. The e-commerce was like, who am I going to learn from except other people doing the job like me? So when we started Commerce Futures, the rules were never put a software vendor, never put a client on stage to try and sell software, and make sure that the content always comes from people who do the job. No, I used to be a guy, no kind of consultants, just people who do the job. And when we started doing that, it was quite difficult because everybody wanted to, the people who want to come and talk are the ex retailers or the ex who are people that, the people that pay you want to be on stage because they go, well, I'm paying you. Why can't I be on stage? So we fought that fight for a long time. And I think now everybody I speak to at every event we ever do or go to, if they don't, they say they agree with that. Everybody, that is now normal. So 12 years later, it is now regarded as entirely normal that the only people on stage really are customers telling their own story, which I think is a great thing. I think that's much better than it used to be. Nowadays, there is better content than there ever was. We're doing a 2-day conference inside a trade show next week in London. I've got 25 retailers on stage. Nobody's told them to say anything. I haven't given them any. I haven't said, can you talk about that? I just said, what do you want to talk about? And so they'll speak far more honestly because of that than the others would do. So I think that's a sort of tick in the box for the whole, and that happens everywhere. That this is a trade show that we're doing that at. We'll do it at ours, and even the new store guys, they well, that was a good gig. Nobody sold anything. There wasn't a kind of come and see my roadmap thing, which quite often there is. So that's good, but there are some challenges. One, good quality speakers are not vetted very carefully now. There is a world that says there's so many events around now that basically some people will be going, I'll put this guy on stage because I've never met him and I don't know what he's talking about, but I'm just going for the brand name. I don't know him. I'm doing this Mac conference in 3 weeks in Chicago, and I've got Prada, Bausch and Lomb, and I've got some fantastic brands on stage, but that's just the brand, right? Are the speakers any good? Are they going to be honest? Are they going to tell the truth? Are they going to share the bad stuff? That's the stuff that's useful. The shiny stuff. If you go to the Adobe Summit or Salesforce, you just hear it's all great. It all happened really quickly. I got ROI in 3 months and everybody loved each other, none of which is true. Nobody cares about that stuff. They all want the dirt because that's where you learn from the things that went wrong. But yeah, there are far too many. There's lots of questionable content in a lot of these events that go on. The big ones are now so expensive to take part in, NRF being the obvious example, right? That actually NRF, 80% of the good stuff at NRF happens outside NRF now. I think I went to NRF this year and I think I was in the conference for about an hour and a half, and I was at people's things outside the conference for the whole rest of the time I was there. And that was much better. And I do think that these big things have lost their way. In the US market is much more stable. Shop Talk, NRF, the big ones that are done, they're not going anywhere and they never will. Europe's not like that. In Europe, conferences come and go, rise and fall in popularity and quality execution much more quickly. Things have become awful and gone away here quickly.
Yeah. So it seems like there's been this subculture, the subconference culture that has been created, right? So all of these opportunities and events that are happening on the peripheral of the big conferences. Have you seen that happen more and more? And then why? I can hazard a guess as to why individuals are doing that, but based off of your experience, how do you see that as an opportunity for the people outside of that main conference, but then also is that detracting from the bigger conference?
Yeah, it's a good example, right? So let's keep it NRF because it's the thing that we both know well. So you've got the big SAP. Look at those big stands, SAP, Microsoft. There's a bunch of good players out there. Those same companies will also arrange almost permanent side events outside of the conference. And they do that because they want to get C-suite somewhere private to have a private salesy thing. Sometimes it's about ego. Quite often it is about ego. I see quite a lot of software firms who it's a lot cheaper to go and run a side event for $20,000 than it is to walk in and buy a $200,000 stand and all that. And if you do the 20,000 gig, you can sponsor a Hummer and a stretch and you can do all sorts of other stuff as well. So sometimes it's a better use of budget. And that comes with the idea that most big tech firms have now got an idea of a very specific ideal customer profile. They're not trying to sell into everybody anymore like they were doing 15 years ago. Most of the customers that we work for have got a 200 or 300 strong account list. That's the only people they really want to win. Trade show doesn't give you that opportunity because it's just there to be, it's about brand presence. So you have to find a way of getting the 300 target accounts you're already going after into that show or into that environment. So the side events are a good way of doing that. I think the biggest problem with events that we see, and I see it all the time in the events that we do, quite often when I leave the room after we've run a dinner or whatever else, did we actually solve anything? Did we actually help anybody? What was useful about that? Why did people come to that? It's 4 hours of nice chat and can all pretend that we've had and we all have had a good time. But did we actually help anybody? Did anybody learn anything? I think that's the thing that I struggle with quite a lot of the time nowadays. I think I worry that people learn less and they're coming for different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to connect you with my daughter because she does event planning for Luxottica, the eyewear company, and transitions. So she does all of their event planning in North America. And now she's about to move to the global event stage. And so we have a lot of conversations around not so much just ROI, but to that question that you just posed. Did people get anything out of this? Like when they leave the conference, right? What did we teach them? What is something that they're implementing like right afterwards? Right? And why are companies or why are conferences maybe not thinking in that context? Because I think part of it is it's brand presence. It's hey, I have to show that. I call NRF Fashion Week in that context. And it's more along the lines of, hey, did you go to NRF? Hey, did you go to NRF? Did you go to NRF? And so it's almost as that.
Did you want to go to NRF? It's freezing cold. It's yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Exactly. But then it's what happened afterwards. So how are you helping maybe some of your clients think differently about like from the very beginning when they conceptualize the conference to the very end?
So let me answer a different question first. So what I do think is that keeping with that learning thing, right? The thing that we've noticed over the last, probably post-COVID, is that, let's say pre-COVID, people were used to doing authentic stuff, the stuff that we like to do, and it was keynote panel, lovely. Okay, we're all used to that stuff, right? Since COVID, in fact, since probably last year, we ran a Mac event in New York last June for about 1,000 people, and we decided that we would do something quite different to solve the problem that we've just been describing. I'm just sitting listening to other people. That's not particularly useful. However, if I'm in a room with 20 people who've got the same problem I've got, and we get to talk about it for an hour and a half, now then I might get real value, right? So last year we delivered that Mac event. There were standard tracks with all the normal stuff, but we ran 3 big rooms, 40 people at a time, of workshops, and we ran them for 2 days with the event. Now, there were lots of things about it that were a little bit chaotic, most of which were my fault, but everybody afterwards said it was the best thing about the gig. Everybody. And we had whiteboards on all the walls, and I got the practitioners who were in the room to facilitate, and they had a great time. And people left with lots and lots of value. This year, we're deleting the chaos, but we're recording all of the outputs. We're going to anonymize and AI them, and all of the transcripts and the audio anonymized will go into this community platform that the client has created, so that there's the valuable nuggets that come out of the conversation. Because yes, you want people to be able to go back to it later and go, who did that thing? That thing, the one I left with one thing What was the one thing I left with? Okay, that was it. Don't overpromise, or whatever it was that they left with. Otherwise, you run the risk that nobody leaves with any value, and that's criminal. You might have made a whole lot of money. You might feel great about yourself, but if people didn't leave with any value, you didn't run a good event.
That's so good.
So I didn't answer your question, but that was what I've been. But I've made a note. That's what I wanted to say. So I thought,
There you go. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But that's 100% true, right? I think one of the things that we're doing over here with Worthy Retail, we have the campus, right, which is our leadership community, and we are doing master classes. And part of what we are doing is not just delivering the master class, but it's what I call the aftercare of the master class. A week after the master class, you get time with the actual instructor, right? You create a bond. Ideally, you start to create more of a bond with not just the instructor, but with the information and with what you've learned. I almost feel like there needs to be some measure of that with conferences, not maybe something structural, but if your company went to this event, what are you doing with this afterwards? Like, how do you create some measure of this aftercare so that there's still this bond with the information that you've learned?
well, look, the other thing is, let's being really frank. Conferences, all events in tech, which is the world that we both live in, they are about selling things.
100%.
That's what they're designed to do, right? There's billions of dollars of marketing money that go into putting me in a room with my prospect or somebody who might be my prospect. That's the function that they're all trying to do. Now, if you get it right, and I know what getting it right really looks like. If you really get it right, the customer, the head of e-commerce or the head of technology at Fairty, Louis Vuitton, they're in the room, they feel comfortable and safe, and they overshare. If you get it right, that person overshares enough that the good salesperson on the other end of that, in that room with them, is able to empathize, connect really well, and a bond is formed, and there's some trust established. That's why events at their very best can be brilliant, because you can store that. If you do that, and you both know, we can do that. You can do that in 5 minutes. That can take 5 minutes. That could take you months and months to do in another environment. The other thing about events is, and I'd remind my team about it all the time, is if I'm coming to an event as a delegate, as somebody who to be sold to, as a potential customer, I'm leaving my house. I'm probably getting on a plane if I'm in the US. I'm buying a hotel room. I'm arriving at this event wanting to learn. That's why I want to learn. That's why I've come. So I'm open-minded. I walk in get my delegate badge with an open mind.
100%.
As soon as you start trying to sell to those people, they shut down, because we're all going, don't fucking do that. Just stop selling to me. I'm here to learn. Where's my learning? And I think that's the thing. Again, people have become a lot better at it over the last 4 or 5 years, but there's a long way to go. You were nodding as I described those moments of that moment. We've all had those wonderful moments where somebody goes, yeah, we're going to do that this year. It's our big program. And you're thinking, come to mama.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You don't get that in anywhere else, right?
I did a short stint in business development for a project management company, actually in Atlanta years ago. And I reported directly to the CEO, and I had all of North America. And one of the things that when he brought me on, they were struggling with that connection of what you're talking about. They were really struggling with that in connecting with the customers. Coca-Cola was our biggest client at the time. So we lived off of the funds from Coca-Cola, and then we would try to distribute it out to other BDMs and other opportunities. And part of my strategy was, how do we, of course, reduce the sales cycle? But by reducing the sales cycle, you actually have to create more relationship quicker. And you do that by teaching and learning and giving people and solving problems for people, right? And we weren't solving problems. We were pretty much just providing a solution, and we didn't even identify the individual's problem. And I think part of what I still see within some of the conferences, maybe to your point, is that when you get that person to overshare, you have created an environment where they feel safe that I can maybe articulate my problem, but guess what? You may have a solution for me that I didn't even know that existed by
Yeah.
providing some of that environment.
And perhaps it's only because of the discussion that there's been in the room that you're aware that you've got a problem. What if you
100%.
leave the room going, the MAC conference we did last summer in New York, there were people leaving the workshops going, okay, we really haven't touched our technology for 20 years. We haven't had to. Now we have to because the world is changing. The world is being disrupted. We're being disrupted. This is a great set of blueprints for me to go and do it. But what I now know is my business cannot absorb change
Yeah.
in the way that it needs to. So I've realized today that this is not a technology problem. This is a change problem. This is how do we get used to the idea that our business is going to fundamentally change and keep changing for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Because if the business doesn't understand that, we just shouldn't start. So I had about 5 of those conversations with people over 2 days, and they were leaving with a mission. There was fire in their eyes. That's what a great event is supposed to do. You don't see that at trade shows, do you? You don't see that. The trade show model is broadly a little bit tired, I think. And I would like to talk about shop talk and bribery in a minute.
Yeah, no, we're there. Go for it. This is about you, sir. So however you want to direct the conversation, I'm there.
I think I've never been to shop talk in Vegas, but I don't know, maybe 10 years ago when my clients were going to shop talk in the US, it's a brilliantly run show. It is the best run show I think there probably is. And my clients were coming back going, we went on these paid meetings and we had 10 organized meetings, speed dating. We all know what that looks like, right? Big rabbit hutch. Not the most glamorous side of trade shows, but really valuable, really well curated, fantastically delivered. The retailers and the brands were in the room to learn, and it was good. Now, shop talkers really struggled to come to Europe. Right? They did a Copenhagen thing, which was not very good. They did a London thing, which is even worse. Anyway, they've now settled in Barcelona. They've been in Barcelona. This will be the third year in Barcelona. Now, the challenge is that there are no Spanish retailers, really. So your audience of retailers, they're not coming from Barcelona. The shop talk bribes the retailers to go. I'll pay your $500 flight. I'll give you $1,000. I'll pay you to go.
Yeah.
I am bribing you to go. Now, we've established that people go to conferences with an open mind. You don't arrive at shop talk with an open mind as a retailer who's been bribed to go. Because you're there because you're being paid to go.
Yeah.
That's not me wanting to learn. That's me wanting to go on their money and have a nice couple of drinks. And I think that damages everything about the potential relationships that people get.
Yeah.
You've got an audience that's been paid to attend and a load of sponsors who are paying to go and sell to the audience who've been paid to attend. That doesn't feel right. Just as I was thinking, oh, that's a bit icky. And it is. It's a bit icky. So there are some, I'm not suggesting there's anything illegal about it, or everybody knows that this is what's going on. And the content that Shop Talk delivers in Europe is fantastic. The stages are great, the theaters are great, but that part of it, nobody's very happy with that. And some of those paid for speed dating meetings are truly awful because they're less sticky. So I think that's definitely a problem area. And those events are about scale, not quality. So that's an argument. But I think that's a challenge that not just Shop Talk, but everybody needs to try and do something about.
Yeah. You said earlier that you have the secret sauce to a great event. I think I heard you say, you didn't use the word secret sauce. I just made that up. But you said, hey, I know what a really good event looks like. Could you share that with some of the people here? From your perspective, what does a really good event look like? I know we've been talking a lot about different events and aspects of it, but I want to hear from your perspective.
Okay. So let's assume that not talk about format, because you can deliver what I'm about to say, you can deliver it across any format you want. So an event plan, an event structure idea takes you do it the same way as you do a sales activity, right? you think about your ICP. Who am I trying to get in the room? Who am I trying to have that? Who's it for? 300 target accounts. They're all going to have some shared commonalities, right? They'll have a number of stores if they're retailers, or who's the persona I'm designing it for? What's the business structure? What do they all look like? And also, what do I sell? What's in it for me? And out of that should come a set of problems that all of your customers are likely to have.
Yeah.
That has to be where you start. So do not start with the thing that you sell. Always start with the customer and the customer's problem. Great example. Years ago, we were working for Salesforce and they said, we've just launched a mobile app version of Commerce Cloud, and it's mobile. You can interact with Salesforce Commerce Cloud as a mobile device. And that was relatively new at the time, and they were very excited. And they wanted to do an event, buy my mobile app or something. So,
Like, no.
okay. So all we did, it was very simple. We said, okay, who's going to use the mobile app? Young people, because young people are using mobile and they're shopping on their mobile. So we designed an event and we called it something like Down with the Millennials or something. We said, this is about how you connect to the millennial audience. Come and learn how you connect with the millennial audience. Now, it was secretly a Buy My Mobile App conference in disguise, but the theme of it was focused on a problem that every retailer we were trying to get to that event, they could all see that was a problem they were going to have. So that's the first thing. Create a theme that will resonate with the problems that your customers are. Do not create a theme that is about the product that you sell. And once you've created your theme, follow that all the way through. Weirdly, New Store's Endless Aisle event is not about a problem that a customer has. It comes out of their podcast. But it is about this idea of trying to keep a customer, trying to keep a customer across all the channels, and they're pretty clear about how they do that stuff. But yeah, that's the first thing. Themes have to be about customer problems. Once you've done that, if you believe there's an ROI in 20 people in a room because they're senior people, you think you can get 5 to convert, then you can go and spend a ton of money creating a small event. Think about where your customers live and where they're going to come from and do. And the US is a very difficult market to do anything small in because everybody is a long way away from everything. I've got customers who really can only bring themselves to do small events in New York. Every other city they're in, find it difficult to run smaller boutique style events. So you end up having to do this sort of big annual conference thing. Right. So think about format, but think about your customers and their locations and how you're going to make it interesting enough for them to come. And then I think in the room when they're there, give them value. Do not sell. Absolutely do not sell to them in the room. They will leave and they will hate you. Do not sell to them in the room. If you do, you've ruined the chance that you had to create great relationships. And the moments that we talked about earlier on, where you create, where people feel safe enough to overshare, that's what you're trying to achieve. Not I hit him over the head with a sales pitch for an hour and a half and eventually he buckled. That's not the outcome we all want, is it? And value comes from having great experts in the room. I've done it again. And typically they're peers. Customers want to learn from their peers. They don't particularly want to learn from you unless it's your chief technology officer or the guy that runs the roadmap or the lady that runs product. Those are the people that are interesting. Don't put sales leaders on stage ever. It's a terrible mistake because also they like it. They like it too much and they talk too much.
That's so good.
And finally, and this is just true, get more women than men on stage. Why? So A, because it's just the right thing to do, but B, women tell better stories than men do about this stuff. Reason why is we, men, we always put ourselves in the story and women don't because we've got egos and they haven't. And so the content that women deliver is always better than the content men deliver.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's a good one.
Not all about you, Steve. But it is all about me.
It is all about you. It is all about you.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's very
that's so
sad.
good.
Very sad.
That's so
But
good,
women
though.
do tell much better stories than men.
They do. They do. They do.
There's just more value in what they say
They
because
do.
they haven't made it. They haven't put themselves in the middle of it all.
Well, yeah, it's sometimes it boils down to the simple idea of tell me about your day. Guys, it was okay. My fiance, she'll tell me like, "Hey, how was your day?" I'm like, "I was all right." And I'm like, "Tell me about your day." And then she's very detailed in everything that happened. And I was like, "Okay, wow." And but it's my dad, same way with my daughters. It's the same way. And so it's interesting. I'm such a great point. Such a great point. I appreciate you bringing that up. One last question. One, because I can't let you go without talking about the impact of AI. Right. I know I didn't probably send you this question because I was thinking about it early this morning as I was thinking about this time with you. Could you talk a little bit about if it's impacting, what type of impact it's having on anything that you're doing from a conference creation, implementation, execution standpoint?
So first of all, let me tell you about what the customer delegate thinks about that subject. So what I found fascinating the last 2 years, every vendor I work with, and let's say I have 100 customers who are technology firms, every vendor wants to talk about AI. And
Mm,
they will say to you, Jamie, the delegates, the customers, the retailers, they really want to hear about AI. That's what they're really interested in. That's a lie. They're not interested in AI at all because they don't think it's ready. They don't think they can buy it. They don't think there's any value there. They think it's all smoke and mirrors. And it is all smoke and mirrors. There's nothing yet good enough apart from ChatGPT and some efficiency stuff, which obviously we're all playing with. There's nothing out there yet that's really changing the game for brands. There are a couple of really brilliant point solutions. I'll name you Ocular Technology, which is a brilliant bit of product augmentation. There's some bits like massively, but they're just efficiency tools. AI in terms of generating and making the conference producer's life easier, more successful, and generating better value for audiences. Look, I said earlier on, we're using AI to anonymize, record
yeah,
and
yeah.
anonymize all of the discussion that's happening in a room. And anonymize is key because lots of people do not want to be identified in what they say. And we promise a chatting house a private environment. We think there's loads of value there. We think there's loads of value in creating précis of live discussions that have been private, which people want to go back to and just make sure they've got value from it again. I think that's definitely the case. And obviously, we run a couple of communities, and having that content available inside the community to people to go back to is useful. One person might go back to it every 3 months, but it's worth it just for that because it's zero effort. It is
Sure.
zero effort. That's one. It's much, much easier to create great imagery. We're helping clients. We're helping speakers create decks now, or they're giving us their decks and we're giving them a jus and a sort of making them spicier. And it takes very little effort and they're much more, you can elevate somebody's content by 20% with almost no design skill now. But obviously in the end, events are all about human connection. So that's why you're running them. And that will only increase, won't it? Because in the end, I need to look at you and go, do I believe what you're saying? Not about the quality of your technology, but maybe about what you're going to do with my data. All of those questions are the ones that people really care about now.
Yeah. That's so good.
It's a terrible answer to your question, by the way. I think
No, it's no, no. Listen, I'm gonna talk.
but I really tried to do.
You
That's what
really
I did.
tried. You really tried. You really tried. For those who want to get in contact with you and who want to work with you, right? How are they able to get in contact with you? And what events do you have coming up here in 2025 that they can go to and they can see your fingerprint on some of the operations?
If we're running the Mac Alliance conference on the 23rd of April in Chicago. I'm sure this will go out too late for that, but 23rd of April, we're in Chicago. We're in London. We're doing loads. I think, to be honest, the best stuff that we'll do this year will be Endless Aisle for New Store in London in May, and Endless Aisle New Store again in October. That's the kind of, it gives you a really good example of the work that we do, that we love to do. They're a great client. They let us do it our way. They don't get in the way. They buy into everything that we say, and we have a great time doing it together. So the 2 New Store conferences will be fantastic. Increasingly, our business is about building event formats on behalf of our clients to solve some of the challenges that we're right. So not necessarily all about executing it on behalf of, but maybe taking it half of the way there and letting the client finish it. And then the other thing that we're doing when I've worked on value propositions for clients for years, and actually, if you think of what I described earlier on, creating a great event is really just about having a really good understanding of what your value proposition is and who your customer is. And quite a lot of the time, people haven't got that nailed. So we almost quite a lot of the time, we start back there and then work forward.
That's good.
You can find me. I do these stupid Tim Dot videos on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Everybody,
you listen to me. I couldn't get out of here without you saying something about that real quick because is it every Monday morning, or at least I think
I
I'm
don't know.
seeing it every Monday morning, and I look forward to them. I really do. And it's also I'm like, okay, what kind of shirt? What is he gonna be? What is he gonna be wearing, rocking this
Well,
morning? So
all that's happened is this is my old office up at the top of my house, and my clothes are up here, right, in cupboards to the left and right of me. So as I've moved back up here, I've gone through some of the disastrous choices I've made over the years. And as I start to clean my closet out, I think, oh, people will watch it if I wore a surf shirt or some terrible pink thing whatever. Anyway, yeah. So the terrible clothing will go because it's mostly left the building, but yeah. I like doing them. I think
I like it.
it's disappointing in lots of ways that younger people are so self-conscious about doing what I and you feel entirely comfortable. I have an ego, obviously, but I'm not afraid to humiliate myself.
No.
I don't really care about it.
No,
No.
no one got time for that. No one has time for that. It's part of being human. It's part
Yeah.
of being human. It's part of life. Like I've been through too much in my life to be to really care about what anybody thinks, right now. Jamie, I thank you so much for being here. I was looking forward to this conversation all week, and I just appreciate you for gracing this podcast. I know you have a podcast starting yourself, which I'm pretty excited about. You want to talk about that real quick?
It's not out yet, but I'm working with
out?
my friend Laura. My friend Laura, who I've known for a long time, who's an Italian American who lives in Jersey. We knew each other when we were in our early 20s living in New York together. We were good friends, but we don't really know each other that well. So there's a 30-year gap. We're starting a podcast about aging, and it's a sad subject, isn't it? We're looking at a moment of bad knees and death and some awful stuff in the middle. But there's got to be a way of approaching that whole subject with a degree of lightness. So Laura and I are going to try and make it funny.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. No,
It's going to be yeah. But even those little ironies. I wear this Garmin watch. I'm just watching. I bought an expensive watch to watch myself get slower. Now, whereas my son, who's 21, who runs half marathons, he doesn't give a damn about having a watch. He's not timing himself because he can run a marathon, for God's sake. I don't care. Yeah, look at me. I'm a gazelle. From one non-gazelle to another non-gazelle. This has been great. This has been great, Steve. And who have you got? We've got Preston this weekend. Who have you got? Who's your? I can't remember who you've got in the FA Cup. Have you? What's your? Who? No. So it's the FA Cup. It's the FA Cup quarterfinals this weekend. We've got Preston North End, who are a league below us. It's almost worse having them because, you know, They've got nothing to lose, right? So we're gonna get hammered, and then, no, no, I think we're away. I think we're away, which is worse. That's worse. No. Oh, yeah. Always. Cheers, buddy. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.